Yes, you are.
Okay, I'm going to start my speech in three, two, one. So, ladies and gentlemen, we can see in status quo that there are college campuses that prioritize liberal values such as advocating LGBTQ plus, right, creating POC room, and so on and so forth. So the problem that we identify is that there's many people that scared because they think that their opinion will seem as wrong, weird, so on and so forth. And second things, we think that the society are there feels that there are no safe place for them to uh, to say their rights of speech, like the free of speech for them to say to the society and are delivered to any people. So our stance, we believe that our stance as government team is that we want the right of free speech that should be prioritized by college campuses. Our goal is to make every people deserve the right well of free speech. Moving on to my first argument. Why is it important for college campuses to prioritize the right of free speech? My first layer will be characterization of free speech of college campuses. Uh, Free speech at public universities and college is at once the most obvious and the most paradoxical of constitutional principle. It is obvious because given nature of academic inquiry, only an open, robust, and critical environment for speech will support the quest of the truth. At the same time, universities are at once communities that must balance the requirement of free speech with issues of civility, respect, and human dignity. They are also part and parcel of a larger social order with its own, often competing set of values. Public university as particular rich ground of conflicts over matters of speech. Usually, universities bring together persons with often strongly held yet contradictory views. University, for example, they have their own newspaper, some of which may be operated by university, by the student, or by an off-campus group. Public institutions in their diversity often have students and faculty of different political, social, sexual orientation, and religious commitment. So we noticed that the way the campuses have a journalist organization, which they can make their newspaper, they have the right of speech, which they can show what the writer intention while making the magazine, the newspaper itself. Moreover, one of the driving concepts of the university campus is academic freedom and freedom of speech to right to inquire broadly the question and to promote an environment where wrong answers, seemingly absurd idea and unconventional thought are not just permitted but even encouraged. So even if it seems as weird and it seems it's not nonsense to the society itself, that when the college or the campuses they have make a right for those people want a free speech, if that things is seen as not important, they will encourage people that this speech is also important because it's like the side of the few of the people who doing that free speech. Moving on to my second layer.
Before
Why
that,
is it
POI.
no thank you. Why is it important? First point is that we already know that there's tons of community organization group of people that prioritize liberal values. And this happened around this college student. Whether the college prioritizing liberal value like promoting LGBTQ plus rights and such, they already got the influence from outside. Notice that movement like LGBTQ plus movement, BLM, feminist movement, those that prioritize liberal values are mostly targeted college students or young people. So we think college students already can got the influences of liberal value from outside. Therefore, we believe that college should prioritize free speech because we notice that no one seems to promoting it. Even if it exists, it's invisible or noticed for the society. It doesn't reach this college student that way. That's why many people are scared to speak up their opinion. Whereas we know that opinion of every people is a matter. That's why we believe college should prioritize free speech of their student so that the student could speak up their opinion. They do not feel scared when even if their opinion is weird or wrong. And the most important things is that their opinion are spoken and they have right to do that. Noticing that they every people has right and every people opinions is matter. That's why we're saying that college campuses should providing or like they giving them free of speech for every people in the campus, or every people that didn't really think they didn't really care enough by social movement and so on and so forth. Moving on to my second
Before that,
argument.
POI,
Okay.
will you allow free speech used to degrade people of color?
Okay, so question, answering that kind of question. So we notice that people of color is like like they also have the right of speech, but usually people of color or people that POC the people that create in POC rooms is have already have a kind of organization or people that going to take it that and every when we notice that every type of people and also people of color speech type and will get respect by everybody in the society or everything. That's why we're saying that is a free speech of a college that college and campuses so provide a free speech for those kind of people. Moving on to my second argument, safe place for speech. Noticing that we're now living in a world when they're going to get a judgmental, just physically or mentally, when they're just saying their opinion about what they really feel or what they are really up to or what are their intention. And that's why we're saying that college and campuses is the most is the safe place that can be used for people to show what their intention and how they should act in this kind of world. And we know that campuses at colleges usually have a security guard where I mean like they have people that going to protect the one that speech or the one that in the college itself, so that people in the college will feel safe enough to tell what they're really up to. And that's why we're saying that the safe place for speech is a college or campuses itself, because we realize that people also need a safe place or say or like happy or peace of time when they do such a free speech to the society. And that's why we proudly to propose.
We thank you that speech. Now to open the case from opposition team, let us invite the leader of opposition. The time is yours. Here.
Hello, am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Okay. Uh,
Okay, okay. I'm sorry. Can you louder, please?
all louder.
Yes. Oh, yeah, okay. It's loud and clear on our side. Thank
Wait a
you.
minute. Let me then set up the microphone. Um, okay. I'll start my speech in 3, 2, 1. Panels, before I go to any rebuttals, let me explain the meaning of words that oppositions try to bring in this side of the house, right? What is free speech? Free speech is when you are literally saying anything you want to say without any censors, without really thinking, oh, whether it does that benefit society or not, etc. Well, liberal values is again advocating LGBT rights, POC meeting rooms, sensitive training, but not only that, it includes support groups, policies that are inclusive, etc. But what is college campuses? College campuses, it is a safe place where people are around age of 17 until 30 years old. It is an educational institution full of 20 years old pivotal point. It is a pivotal point in life where your life there is significantly affect the rest of your life on how you are treated, how your views, and we think that college campus is a crucial thing because these few years will impact how you view life in a long term, right? But what should be we are debating about? As opposition, we agree how they are allowed in making magazines, academic inquiries, and also tell about what they want to tell or say, and you name it all, right? But what we disagree is on how, when we're talking about free speech, They will use it as a tool to say anything they want to say, which is hate speech. On our side, we are not allowing hate speech. We exclusively disagree that free speech to be brought in college. We think that this debate shouldn't be about how free speech happens in society, such as in riots, or even complaints to government, etc., but exclusive on campus. And we also think that to win this debate, opposition have to prove why hate speech really brings beneficial impact to the society, why hate speech is a good thing to have, right? But so our stand is clear. We stand for not allowing hate speech. We want to create a limit in what you may in what you may say. We will prioritize liberal values. So what should we prove? What we have so before I say on what should we prove, what does their world and our world look like? Their world would allow people to say anything they want to say. Their world would have and not have any direction, knowing that everyone would say anything they want to say. Their world would allow people to say hate speech that could bring a negative impact to society and some certain minority groups. Their world would look exactly like what happened on how a university in America allowing free speech, and what do they invite? They invite a terrorist from the Middle East to talk in that free speech conference, knowing that, oh, it's free speech, even though it's wrong, etc., even though you know that it brings a negative impact to everyone, even though you are literally harming a minority group, but then you still allow it to happen because simply that, oh, it is free speech. They would exactly look like that, but our world would look like us limiting those hate speech, protecting the minority group, creating the group as therefore creating a gap on which they may and may not say. So what do we have to prove in this debate to win? What we have to prove is why is it justified to prioritize liberal values over free speech, and how prioritizing liberal values pushes the feminist ideals in itself. So first, why is it justified to prioritize liberal values over free speech? First of all, how liberal values cater to all layers of society. Three things in this. Liberal values essence is being mindful and accepting of change and diversity, as opposed to conservatism that is less lenient toward that. They are set in their traditional belief. We believe liberal values, which looks like respecting LGBT, POC, and in favor of diversity, is something that will protect all students on campus, because liberal values, which will always uphold the belief that everyone should be treated equally, and not matter of race, sexual orientation, gender, etc. We think that our side win when it's talking about catering in all layers of society. But even if to some extent liberal values cannot cater to some people, example the conservative students, we think that it is okay to sacrifice some rights over the other when the right to free speech is used to harm the right of minority students, who are the most vulnerable actor in this case. That said, not only that we cater to all layers of society, but then we are also protecting the most vulnerable actor here. We think that is when it is justified for us to limit those rights. But why free speech harms the most vulnerable, right? We still see LGBTQ and people and minorities being harmed by free speech. We see people using free speech as a defense when they sprout out words that hurt the identities of these minorities. What I mean by this is that people, when they are allowed to do free speech, they do not care about other people. It's not that they really do free speech and they only say something that is wise, etc. But they use free speech and they use this not wisely. They use this by literally harming other minorities group. They do not care about the other people's feeling, and we disagree with this. But thirdly, how prioritizing liberal values can create more secure space for minorities, right? Under our side of the house, when you prioritize liberal values, you create balance and equality directly for these vulnerable groups. For example, LGBT rights advocacy looks like policies for LGBT people on campus to be included in activities and more discussions. We think that this structural eradicates the discrimination and inequality of opportunities happening for these groups in order to liberalize them. And POC meeting rooms will create a safe space for people of color. We think that when normal meeting rooms have been proven to not be able to provide people of color a safe space to voice out these opinions and discuss their perspectives that freely. Thirdly, sensitive training will make people more mindful on what they say. This makes every conversation on campus more friendly to these minority groups. That is the kind of college campus we want to have. This makes the kind of free speech they want to champion other government still exists, but on a better quality. Second argument, how prioritizing liberal values pushes feminist ideas. The problem is three, right? In college campus, women is still undermined. Their achievement is assumed that it's because of their own, not because of their own merit, and they are still less compromised. While in our side of the house, it benefits because we are protecting the feminist values. We are protecting this group. We are protecting more opportunities for women who are disenfranchised, and we are protecting on how women are still undermined, on how engineers are 12% boys and only one woman in ratio. That's that we think that opposition should stand in this debate. Proud to oppose.
We thank you that speech. Now to continue the case from government team, let us invite the Deputy Prime Minister. The time is yours. Here.
Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Okay. I'll start my speech in 3, 2, 1. So, ladies and gentlemen, what does we mean by free speech in our side of the house, right? What the opposition side of the house try to claim that free speech in our side of the house will be that people will talk freely. It will be used as a hate speech because it literally means that you are free to talk whatever you think about. But that is not what we meant by free speech, right? Because uh we believe that all people are able to be ethical in the end of the day because they know that it is not ethic to hate on people, to just talk about whatever they are talking about, because there is respect that they know that they have to respect other people as well, and they have the ethical code in the society itself. And what we mean, and so we think that it will not be used as hate speech. But moreover, then we already talked to you that there exist social movement such as feminist movement or BLM that constantly trying to that constantly injecting values of that you have to respect our minority as well. And this movement reach college students as well, so they know that they cannot spread hate words, even though it is a freedom of speech, but they are still tied with the ethic, and they can spread hate words in the end of the day. But what we are mean by giving free speech for people is that these persons, these individuals, can talk about their grievances in the end of the day. Those people that needs this freedom of speech are those who are discriminated, those who are vulnerable, that they are usually, when they speak up, they are mocked, they are seen as someone that is wrong, or they are being pushed away by their friends and such, right? But we want them to be able to talk about their grievances to other people, uh, and we do not want any of the students to not be able to talk about their grievances, because what happened the moment that they can't talk about their grievances is that it will be only their own burden in the end of the day, and it will harm them. In the end of the day, they might have a mental burden, mental issue and such, right? And we believe that every students are rational enough, every people are rational enough, that even if it is a freedom of speech, they can still think rational, that hating other people is not right. And what we mean here is that they can talk about their grievances and such. Every people have their ethical code, right? Even if they give a hate speech, is that fulfilling the society ethic? No, right? That is why we want, what we want is that they can say what are their intention in the very first place, even though maybe the content of their speech uh, is not agreeing, is disagreeing with a certain group of people. We believe that they still have ethic, that they will say it with respect, that they do not offend this other group of people.
Point of clarification.
Yes,
What do
yes,
you
please.
think about the people that think it is rational to kill everyone of different religion than them in your side of the house?
Okay, so this continue to my next point to answer this POI is that even though there are people that think it is okay to give hate speech to other people, but we say that it will still be okay in our side of the house, because like we said before, there are movement, there are communities that are protecting this vulnerable actor like minority and such, right? And we think that it will, in our side of the house, it will create a stronger bond between inside of those inside of those minority community, right? Because they notice that one of their members are being discriminated by other people outside of their community, and so they will together creating a strong bond and fighting those that are discriminating them. We say that it will be better because this community, this movement in the very first place can be progressing much more. And uh, if their intention, and and that's why we say that it will still okay in our side of the house. But what will be uh but my point is that what will be better when the moment that in the opposition side of the house, yes, they are protecting the vulnerable, but they are only protecting the minority, right, ladies and gentlemen, because their point is that this minority that are vulnerable are being protected and given and given safe place in the end of the day. But what about other vulnerable actors? For example, those people that are depressed, those people that maybe not the minority, but they still have mental health issues. For example, they are not minority. Uh, they're not minority, so the opposition side of the house are not including this kind of vulnerable actor in the end of the day. And we said it will be better in our side of the house because we are the moment that we are prioritizing free speech, we are giving a safe place for all vulnerable people to talk about what their grievances, to talk about what are their problem, and search for help from other people so that they can share about their problem, so it's not becoming their own burden that will kill them, that will eat them in the end of the day, right? So we say that it is better because we are protecting all vulnerable actors and not just minority. But notice that we also protecting minority here, because minority can also uh, because minority also giving their free speech, that they are speaking of what they want, that they want to be equal with other people and such. But we say that but my next point is that the social movement like this cannot work without we prioritizing free speech in college campuses, because the moment that we do not prioritize free speech, those people that are vulnerable cannot speak up their mind, cannot speak up what their problem is and such. And so this social movement that are trying to reach out to them, that are trying to help them in the very first place, cannot work in the end of the day, because they do not know, and these people are not helping either, because they only keeping it to themselves, and it will only make everything worse in the end of the day, because they still feel scared. They still feel that, oh, if I speak up, people will judge me, people will hate me in the end, because I am not a part of minority, I'm a part of maybe white people, but I have for example mental health issues, but no one will hear about me, no one will hurt me in the end. And we say that it will be worse in their side of the house. Therefore, we are proud to propose.
Thank you, that speech. Now to continue the case from opposition team, let us invite Deputy Leader of Opposition. The time is yours. Here.
Let me set up my timer. My POA preference is you just unmute yourself. I'll start in 3, 2, 1. Chair, the moment government side of the House also agrees that they want to help out vulnerable people and minorities, that's that moment they already concede to our whole case. That's liberal values to begin with. We don't see how they've never proven to you how freedom of speech will actually help this better, right? To clarify, we think that government side of the House needs to prove why ultimately hate speech happening under their side of the House is also okay, because note that hate speech is also part of the free speech they truly champion, right? And that is why we think that when they say that hate speech will not happen, that's not enough, because they need to justify why when hate speech actually happens, okay, under their side of the House. This is something they've never proven. They've also never responded to our points about how feminist values will be better supported under our side of the House. We've told you how this is very urgent. We told you how the inequality is very real, how there is a female to male ratio that's really, really saddening, about 12:1. And we don't see how that will be fixed under their side of the House. 3 rebuttals and 1 extension in my speech. First rebuttal, they say that movements cannot exist without free speech. Notice that we need to clear out what does free speech actually happens, how free speech actually takes place under both sides of the House. This motion is about prioritization. And in order for them to prioritize free speech, they need to prove how there are more people who don't want to speak up rather than people who are oppressed. Under our side of the House, we still there is still speech happening, right? We don't say that we will diminish free speech totally, but what we're saying is we will prioritize these movements to be created directly for liberal values. This looks like cozy meeting rooms, like what Nathan has told you, and so on and so forth, mechanisms that directly engage with the inequality happening within minorities and majorities. We think that we think that in status quo, there is already enough people who want to speak up about that. What we actually need is the equal playing field that is not happening. That is the inequality happening. And that is why if you want to say that free speech can support these movements need to exist first. And in order for these movements to exist, you need to prioritize liberal values first. And how this looks like is that it's the college campuses themselves creating the support for these movements to happen. We think that the moment college campuses support these kinds of movements for liberal values directly, that is the moment you can actually create a level and equality for minorities and vulnerable groups. That is why under our side of the House, these movements will be much more better under their side of the House when they only say, oh, with free speech, people will be able to speak out. When under their side of the House, there is still inequality happening. We don't think that free speech will be even listened at the very least. Moving on to my second rebuttal about how they say that with free speech, everyone will be able to be ethical, right? 3 responses to this. First response, they say that there are already movements like BLM and feminism, but we think that despite these campaigns already happening, like what they told you, we still see people mindlessly shouting out the N-word. We still see people catcalling women. And that is already enough proof that these kinds of campaigns and movements already existing are not enough. And that is why, moving on to my second response, we think that the nature of youngsters in college themselves are already for them, the nature of youngsters in college, people in their 20s, they are striving for freedom. They think that they can do anything, right? And that is why we don't think that they will, we think that it's a very small population that are actually very scared to like express their grievances, because in that age, most people think that they can do anything. And that is why their case is not as urgent as ours. Third response, we think that even if their kind of free speech actually creates people to be ethical, we think that liberal values a much better umbrella for that, because the free speech they try to spout out is ethical, then liberal values actually also includes free speech that's ethical, right? What they try to value under their side of the house is free speech that encompasses everything. And we don't think that's okay because hate speech is included in that. Under liberal values, hate speech still exists, but this in a better quality when you do sensitivity training, because you condemn people who spell out the N-word, you condemn people who create insensitive comments. And that is why liberal values is a much better umbrella to create the ethical free speech they want to champion. We've proven why it's highly likely for hate speech to happen, and government must prove why that's okay if they truly care for minorities. Third rebuttal about how they try to mention mental health, right? We told you that youngsters, we think that most youngsters are already free, but even if there are still people in depression, etc., we think that the way for you to cater to these groups are not by, oh, you can speak whatever you want, because like that's not directly addressing the problem. What you should do instead are things like psychologists, are things like counseling, these kinds of things that will directly cater to mental health, and not by simply putting out, oh, you can say whatever you want, because social anxiety is not fixed that way. Moving on to my extension about how our side of the house is in line with college campuses as grounds of opportunities. Problem, we think that as places of development, this means that there must exist equal opportunities to grow. We don't think this has been enough throughout history of how college campuses work today. May it be LGBT people, people of color, Asians, etc. They are trapped under stereotypes and harmful narratives that harm their opportunities. Before you talk about free speech for everyone, you must level out the playing ground and the fixed inequalities that are still happening. Under opposition of the House, you get equal playing ground by focusing on mechanisms for minorities and vulnerable people. How? Two ways. First, you directly provide opportunities, for example, to join researchers and projects in campus. Without prioritizing a proportion of these opportunities for minorities, stereotypes like, oh, this is field work, we need men instead of women, or oh, he's gay, our interviewees in this research will find it disturbing, will harm many students. Second, you directly delete out and condemn hate speech through mechanisms like sensitivity training, because you directly advocate, and that will never happen under the government of the House. We're proud to oppose.
Thank you, that speech. Now to respond to the case from opposition team, let's invite the government whip. The time is yours. Here.
I start my speech. I'm audible.
Yes, you are.
Yes. I start my speech from 3, 2, 1. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, why it is better in our sides. Firstly, I want to tell you about the statements that exist in the books that's created by the Max Weber. Max Weber is says that the freedom speech that we talk in this debate case is about a democracy lifeblood. The medium truck which even the most contentious viewpoints can pass. Free speech itself, based on our team view, I think it's like a crucial conditions of possibility. It is it is not in a principle means to be the subjects of debate itself. In time of crisis, however, foundational principles are called into questions. The prison seems just such a moment, rather than provides the bureaucrat's framework for for disagreement. Free speech itself has become a source of contention, Now here is this more than more true than on a college and university campus. And we know that many of the most difficult issues surrounding free speech at prisons are about balancing unobstructed dialogues with the needs to make all the content constitutions on campus feel included. In our sets, intensely polarized times, such balancing on competing demands has become increasingly difficult. The questions of free speech has become ironically an issue about which many on campus are increasingly in dispute to listen to one another. While a diversity of opinion exists on free speech cannot refers to main threads of arguments have come to define the claims made to the various commentator and organizations and movement can set likes on the term and limits of that debates. Therefore, we believe is better in our sets. Jump to my clarification. In the first points that when I clarify is when we do the free speech in the campus, it will be good impact to the liberal value because when we believe free speech is good, it can used by the our sets to campaign liberal value and will give socialization to kind of society that didn't know what is the means of the liberal value itself, so that it will be help the liberal community to socialize the liberal value. It will be spreads with automatically and liberal community not uh, spending more money against the campaigns, and it protects their security rights when in this kinds of city is not liked by the regular organizations based on the regular value. And second, clearance why the hate speech okay in our sets. We are not only say the freedom speech, but also uh, how people charge their self about opinion. And we're not saying that we can do anything. We're saying that what we were up to in this debate is that people got their rights. Jump to my first class. Uh, in my first class, my first class, we want the first of the opposition speaker is try to tell you that's when we say if this free speech is can be used a media that can be used by some several oknum to infiltrate to separate some value that can treat the society security like some terrorism learn. I think it is a wrong statement. Why we can confirm that is a wrong statement? Because you know that even though they say it is a freedom speech to spread value based on their thoughts, although it is on terrorism learn, but it is also a good impact for our society, especially for the student on collects, because it can be used some material that can they use in collects the student to debate with one each other. And from the debate, it can make some journalist books that's content from their research that they get from that speech in order they the whole of society it will be some will be get some good for society in order they will not easiest will we know the term of strategy of that's used by the terrorists to impact their life and make their security is will be unstable, and it is also can be useful for the government to as the evaluated way, and also some learning that can be used to English. It can be used further to do a prevent in order not exist the terrorism in their nation in the end of the day. Therefore, it's better in our side. Jump to my second class. The second speaker of opposition is try to tell you in our side is worse because not support the liberal movement, but it is we think it is some wrong statement. Why we can convert it is a wrong statement? Because we think that's in the reality on the wall of society itself is still there is some conflict that's to debates what is the means of the liberal value itself between the progressive and the conservative community. With will we give a free speech movement? Uh, it is some converts to with we give a free speech movement, it will be impacts to the society. It will be understanding the liberal value movement, and if this thing not will be held in our side, it will be make the two sides between the society, progressive or and conservative will be conflict and make the community is lose the liberal community is lose their rights of security like uh, discrimination in the every day. Therefore, that's why we propose. Thank you.
We thank you for the speech. Now to respond to the case from government team, let's invite opposition whip. The time is yours. Here.
Okay, my POI preference is to just unmute your mic and say POI. I'll start my speech in 3, 2, 1. Firstly, I have to clarify that they have to prove to us at their side of the house how this healthy free speech that they want to exist under their side of the house can coexist when they don't prioritize values of diversity and equality, right? That's the question that they have to answer in this whole debate. We already proved to you that we're okay with sacrificing some free speech rights if we can prioritize the protection to disadvantaged people. That is the trade-off that we are willing to make. But what clash do I have in this debate? I have two clashes. The first of all, on what prioritization is better for the vulnerable, and second, on how do we provide better college campuses. Onto the first clash, right? Because I think I have to clarify here what both worlds look like, right? Because on both sides of the house, we continue to portray these kinds of ideal worlds when in fact, the kind of ideal world will not happen, right? We can have both healthy free speech and also have policies that actually give protection towards disadvantaged people. So we think that the free speech that happens under their side of the house is something where they try to talk to you about how people of color can now express their grievances and all, but we think that this is less impactful over the changes that we can make under our side of the house when we prioritize liberal values, right? Nathan has already told you from the very first speech that the kind of world we of college campuses under our side of the house is the one that prioritizes liberal values. It's one that prioritizes real changes in policy, right? It's not like in their side of the house where they just want to keep having these minorities and people just express their opinions, but without any kind of changes that will happen if they don't prioritize liberal values and real changes in policy under college campuses under their side of the house. But if we can prove to you that liberal values will be better to protect these vulnerable people rather than the free speech as a tool, then we win this clash, right? They try to tell you that these kinds of free speech will be beneficial to protect people of color because people of color will also have free speech to defend themselves. Why do we think this is not actually effective, right? My second speaker has already proven to you that this is not enough because people of color and not just people of color, but minorities, they're a smaller group of people compared to majorities, right? So even if they have free speech in the first place, that free speech won't be effective at all. Why? Because their voices will be ultimately drowned out by the free speeches of people with of groups larger than them, right? This is when hate speech comes in, right? Because even if there are some good people in the majority, the voices of the hate speech that comes from the majority will always drown out any opposition that comes from the minority. This is how we prove to you on a numerical scale that free speech wouldn't be effective under their side of the house. But they also try to tell you that it's okay for these kinds of they also try to justify the hate and bigotry that is happening under this of the house by saying that there are, for example, like movements from outside and also that these vulnerable people can join, right? But why do we think that is not okay, right? We think that this alternative that they mentioned to you is not exclusive at all because under our side of the house, students in college campuses can also seek out these kinds of support groups, right? But we tell you that even if they get support from the outside and the support is good, for example, for them, I think our side of the house, both sides of the house can agree that it reflects badly when you don't get support from the very place of institution of education that you actually study in, right? Why is this so? Because colleges, we already characterized to you from the very first start, is a safe place for these minorities, right? They come to colleges to seek protection and education because they think that colleges is a place where they will be defended, where their rights will be defended. So when college campuses don't actually acknowledge acknowledge the discrimination that they face, when they don't acknowledge it by actually supporting support groups for LGBT people to help with their discrimination, we think that that is when college campuses don't actually acknowledge the discrimination that happens to these people, right? Why is this so harmful? Because we already characterized to you from the very first start that college is the pivotal point of time when young people actually where young people's points of view and way of mindset is actually affected by, right, for the rest of their life. So when other students see that college campuses don't actually prioritize the protection of minorities, they will actually continue to bring this mindset that, oh, it's not that important for minorities to be protected. It's not that important for us to actually prioritize the vulnerable rights over the other. And this becomes a justification for more bigotry to happen after you step outside the college space, right? But do realize that we also that they say that education doesn't actually that we also have already proven to you that under our set the house this will be better, right? Because we actually have support groups and sensitivity trainings as opposed to free speeches on their set the house where it's just students expressing their opinion. The kinds of changes that are brought to you under our set the house is one that is done by professionals, by actually college admission deans who hire professionals to actually support these types of students for them to express their grievances inside a support group that can only be brought to you if you prioritize liberal values over free speech that happens in a disordered manner, right? But second of all, second clash, how we provide to you better college campuses, right? First of all, on mental illness, they try to bring to you about how our set the house doesn't actually prioritize mental health people. But do realize that this is not about prioritizing the rights of people of color over the mentally ill, right? It's about limiting the rights of the majority in favor of the protection of minority. So we're also okay with providing support groups for mentally ill people, right? But even so, why is this better under our set the house? Why is it exclusive, right? Because we have to they have to prove to you why this kind of mental illness protection cannot go hand in hand with liberal values under the rest of the house, right? If they want to win this debate, they have to prove to you why this type of benefit for mentally ill people can only happen if you limit liberal values. Because clearly, we mentioned to you from the very first start that liberal values cater to all layers of society, right? It's a value where you actually prioritize diversity and change. That is when we also respect mentally ill people, right? That is not something that government has acknowledged in their debate at all, right? Because even we already proved to you that even if to some point that these depressed and mentally ill people, for example, cannot speak up because we limit their free speech to a sense, we think that it's okay because we actually offset this by providing the facilities that and policy changes under ours of the house when you prioritize liberal values, right? We already proved to you why this is exclusive, because this policy changes can only happen when colleges actually acknowledge the discrimination that is happening to minority people in the first place, right? But second point on academic inquiry, they try to prove to you how limiting the free speech wouldn't happen under our set the house. They try to prove to you that academic inquiry wouldn't happen under our set the house when we limit these types of free speech, right? Well, this is wrong because this is not this is something from the very first speaker that we have already mentioned to you, right? We wouldn't want to limit the kinds of academic inquiry. For example, when people offer opinions in class that are related to the academic materials, we'll only limit those who we only, for example, like give sanctions and heavy sanctions to those who actually use free speech to, for example, degrade people of color. And even if to some extent we have to prove to you, right, why even these types of good free speech when you offer opinions in class can still be limited, we say that it's okay if you sacrifice some of these rights in favor of the rights of those who are more vulnerable, so proud to oppose.
We thank you that speech. Now to conclude the case from opposition team, let us invite the opposition reply. The floor is yours here. Before that, can anyone who does not speaking mute their mic, please? It might disturb the speaker. Thank you.
I'll start. I'll start in 3, 2, 1. Chair, it has never been clear in this debate what government side of the House wants to achieve, right? Because we've proven to you in 2 clashes on why we win. First, on academic opportunities for minorities. What they try to try to champion with free speech, right? How academic institutions will be better under their side of the house. They try to bring up the point about academic inquiry, how people with mental health illnesses and people in general will be able to speak up. We've responded with this extensively in two ways. First, we told you how people with social anxiety won't suddenly speak up when you tell them to speak. These are more relevant to be fixed with other more direct solutions like seeking counseling and psychologists, right? We told you that. And that is why this will not happen. Secondly, we've also responded to you if you want to deal with mental health problems. We've told you how under our side of the house, liberal values also will provide support groups for them. And those kinds of things will still exist under opposition side of the house, right? But then we also provide to you a better alternative about academic institutions because we explain to you and characterize to you how academic institutions must provide equal opportunities and how this is very urgent that inequality still happen. This is something that they have never addressed and never solved under their side of the house because our side of the house, we fix that directly in three ways. First, more opportunities in projects and researches, policy changes that directly allow women and LGBT and POC people to engage in the opportunities they should have been able to take in universities and colleges, right? But secondly, there are also facilities in order for the create a safe space for them. And thirdly, we provide underside of the house, there is direct support for movements and advocacy from these college campuses because these college campuses under our side of the house, they directly acknowledge there is inequalities and they directly support the advocacy for BLM movements. They directly support the advocacy for LGBT rights. We think that's not exist. That's non-existent under their side of the house when they value all kinds of free speech. That is why academic opportunities will be much better under our side of the house. But the second clash, right? We have also proven to you how movements for minorities like BLM and feminism are much better under our side of the house. What they try to tell you about this is that they say that it cannot is that these movements cannot happen without free speech. With they say that with free speech, minorities can speak out their grievances. We've told you that free speech will happen anyways under governments. Will happen anyway under our side of the house because the kind of free speech that happens under government side of the house is one that still includes hate speech. We've told you how this hate speech is first very likely because past movements have not been proven to be effective. We still see people saying out the N-word and other insensitive comments. But then secondly, hate speech will still exist because how Jocelyn has also told you, there is very numerous because in numbers, the majority will drown out the voices of the minorities. But the second response to this, we also prove to you that when college campuses themselves acknowledge these inequalities, we think that it's much because then these movements will be validated. And we think that with the kinds of with the characters that these college students inherently already have as they are youngsters in their 20s, we think that the kind of advocacy and like the kind of spirit for free speech is already existing. We don't see how that's urgent under their side of the house. They have never proven to you this. We've proven to you under our side of the house why the trade-off for us to limit people's speech when it's not suitable. We've proven to you how the trade-off of sacrificing some kind of speech is okay because we've explained the urgency of the issue. Very proud to propose.
We thank you that speech. Now to conclude the debate, let us invite the government reply. The time is yours. Here.
Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Okay. I will start my speech in 3, 2, 1. So, Judge, we already told you the reasons why we should prioritize free speech in the very first place. Point one, that are still exist many people that are scared to speak up their opinion, right? And just because and they are scared to speak up just because it is different with the majority opinion, and we think that this is why those groups that are spreading hatred are continuing to exist, because the moment that exists one person that thinks differently from them, they do not want to hate on other people, they will still keep quiet, because when they actually speak up, they think that they will be they will be shut out from the community and such, and every person do not want that, right? And when actually these people can actually speak up their opinion and possibly make the hate stop from that group, and it can lessen the hate that is exists in our world right now, right? And point two is that we also already talked about that there are movements and community and such that are still progressing, that keeps progressing, and they also reach out to college students. They want to change the college student mindset, that so that these college students are not discriminative towards a group of minority and such. And we said that there are already progress, because like we see that those people that, that are often in demonstration, that are doing campaign and such, college students are also take part of that. So there is proof that these movements and communities are actually already enough of a mechanism to make the college students actually be not being discriminative in the end of the day. And point three is that how we already talked to you on how we can protect all vulnerable people, not just the minority, but also other vulnerable people that have mental illness, for example. That But why is that? Is it so important that we also protecting the those vulnerable people that have mental illness? Is because they are also vulnerable people in the status quo, but they are always being unseen, because all layers of people, like all people all around the world, are only focusing on the minority itself. So we think that with with college campuses also focusing on minority, only making this kind of minority people that is having mental illness are being more unseen in the far future even. And that is why we say that it is very important that freedom of speech is being prioritized by college campuses, because we could actually prevent those mental illness from happening again in the future. Because notice that, for example, depression happened because people cannot speak up their grievances, they cannot speak up their problem. How can uh, so that the moment that they can speak up their problem, they can talk to other people about their problem, and they do not feel scared to share their grievances to other people, we can actually prevent this depression. And how can you prevent this depression in the very first place if you do not see them in your minority, right? So we say that it is very important because these people are actually being unseen, and other minority, for example, they are clearly being seen. It is not that they are not important, but there are more important problems in the status quo that we want to solve, and therefore we are proud to propose.
We thank you that speech that conclude the debate for this chamber, and you guys may leave this meeting room and wait for the announcement in the main hall. Thank you.
Thank you, judges. Thank you, Sidoarjo.
Thank you, judges. Thank you, Penabur.
Thank you, judges. Thank you, Sido.